Hey guys, it's Mrs. Kilburn and Mrs. Stauffer from the school counseling office, and we have a special guest here with us today, Sydney Gabrielson. She is here from the University Fellows Experience at Alabama, and we're going to talk to her a little bit about that program so that you can hear some more about it. Thanks so much for coming, Sydney.
Thank you.
So we talked a little bit about just like the admission requirements and everything for the program. A 30 or above on the ACT is what you would need to qualify. What else do you think they're looking for in the application process for the program?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is how can you take your experience in school and target them in a story of like how have you best impacted your community. So maybe you were in student government here at school and you instituted a project, or maybe you've been babysitting the same family for the last 10 years and you've really seen like this kids you've babysat evolve and like help their education experience. Like it can be something very small or very large. We're just seeing how you can form your experiences into impacting your community, and not just like a resume, because everyone has great grades, everyone is in every honor society. Like what are those deep experiences that have really formed the person you are today?
That makes a lot of sense because it is a leadership program, so obviously they're going to be looking for some amount of foundation in that. How do students communicate that? Is there an essay that they write? Or?
Yes, so there's 3 different essays, all in different lengths. The first one is the largest essay, and that's just telling us a little bit about yourself, maybe what you're interested in studying, how fellows as a whole can help you. So we're really interested in like, how can you get involved in the Tuscaloosa community? You've come to Alabama, you're not from the state, but they've invested so much in you as a state school. So maybe you're interested in pre-med, so you go to rural Alabama and you give wellness checkups, or you're interested in finance. And so for me, that's what I'm interested in, and I work with a microfinance lending institute, and it's entirely student run, and we give microloans to entrepreneurs, and it's between $500 and $5,000. So for me, a farmer came to us from rural Alabama. He said, I'm a UPS driver, but I'm really interested in organic farming. Can you provide us a loan of $2,000? We gave it to him. He started up his farm, and 3 years later, he's selling his produce to Whole Foods around the state. That's really cool, and it's all because of the students at Alabama. So just those different experiences that will really make you unique.
That is really great. So I love your story about how you found this program. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So I was looking at different elite universities, primarily in the Northeast, and Alabama was kind of like the fallback school as it is for a lot of students, but it had a really good financial component, and my parents were really interested in that. So I talked with a regional recruiter, and she said, there's this program from Fellows. It's recruiting a lot of the similar types of students that you would be surrounded by at an elite university, but here at Alabama. So in my cohort of 30 people, we have someone from Hawaii, Las Vegas, Chicago, all over the U.S. And so I applied to Fellows. I went down, and I was like, wow, I'm really being challenged here, because not only are people studying different things, but they have these passions in all different areas. So every time I go to class, every time I go to lunch with someone in my cohort, I feel like I'm learning something new, because you have this like diversity of thought, which was really intriguing to me. But you also have the resources of a large institution at Alabama. So for me, I really wanted to do investment banking. I went to the dean of the Honors College and I said, we need to get the funding to get 10 students up to New York so they can show themselves off to the top investment banks in the country. The Honors College found the money, and they funded a 5-day trip where we just met with investment banks. They paid for our flights and our hotels, and they really showed that Alabama was supporting its students in whatever endeavors they wanted. So you have the resources of a large institution, but the diversity of thought and the elitism you would at a smaller liberal arts university.
That's great. And Sydney is from right here in Knoxville.
Yes.
Bearden graduate. So it's a great example of how someone from Knoxville looking for a college that's maybe not quite as far away, but has a lot of resources nearby would be a good fit. We have so many students that are interested in Alabama, and so many students that would be a great fit about this program. But how long has the program been in existence?
Yeah, so the program is about 10 years old, and it's constantly evolving. So, for example, my cohort last year, we had our sophomore class, and it was all about research and developing an epistemology, which is just like a knowledge of whatever your depth study was going to be. And at the end of the year, we thought it was very great for our class, but we thought, for upcoming classes, there's a few things we could change. And so we went to our professor, we went to the head of the program, and we outlined exactly everything that could be changed. And they really took it into consideration. And so this year's sophomore class is having an entirely different curriculum. So I think because we are a younger program, we have the ability to be very fluid in what we learn and constantly look at ourselves and say, okay, these are the positives and the negatives of the program, and how are we going to evolve in the future?
So it kind of takes a big school and it makes it feel like a smaller community within that school. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. So spring of my senior year, I knew okay, there's 30 students that I'll automatically be friends with coming into the university. You also have the resources of the upperclassmen. So week 1, I came in as a math major my freshman year, and I knew, okay, I don't really want to do theoretical math. I don't want to get a PhD. What can I do? And a senior fellow came to me and said, Sydney, there's this investment management group on campus. Go ahead and apply. We'll help you out. I've been in it for 4 years. And that kind of introduced me to the world of finance. It's $500,000 of the university's endowment that 50 students at the university have the ability to invest in the stock market. It's really interesting, and it showed me a real way you can use math in your work. And for me, that was great. For other people, it's great to have the resource of a senior who's going to Harvard Med School. These are the right classes you should take. This is the research you should do. So having just that tight-knit community with students who are involved in all different aspects of campus was really beneficial for me.
That's great.
I was curious about your time, during a given week. How much of your time is devoted to something that has to do with the fellows program, and how much of it is other course load related to your majors?
Yeah, so it's definitely what you want to make of it. So for me, all the requirements are your coursework. So freshman year, it's a 3-hour credit, which is just a normal college class credit. And then after that, it's only 1 hour. So 1 hour a week, you're in the classroom with your cohort. However, if you're doing research with a professor and it's part of your fellows assignment, you might spend 2 or 3 hours. We have a lot of different social endeavors. So every winter, we have a winter gathering, we have a spring formal, we have an all-fellows retreat that's for a weekend in January, but those are the mandatory things. People socialize with their fellows. I live with a couple fellows, so it can become your social community. Some people use it just for the academic requirements. So it definitely just is what you make of it. It can be as little or as much of your college career as you want.
Okay, thank you. Can you lay out for us a little bit more about each year, what the target is during that given year?
Definitely. So your freshman year, you study the Black Belt region of Alabama, which is the poorest region in the state, and you study the history of it, kind of its current issues, because it was the epicenter of the civil rights movement and the voting rights movement. And so you study it first semester. Second semester, you go down to Marion, Alabama, which is a small town that we have a partnership with, and you look at different projects that might be good or what they need, and then you actually go and institute those projects following your freshman year for 4 weeks, and you go and live in rural Alabama, which is great because I know for me and a lot of members of my cohort, I never even stepped foot in a town with only 600 people. So you really get to live in a quiet area and see very systemic issues in action. Sophomore year, you take a more independent approach, so you do independent research. For me, that was studying different hedge funds with socially conscious investing principles and if they could actually beat the stock market. Junior year, you study a new culture. It's called the international experience. So for our class, and most of the classes before us, we're studying Cuba and how you kind of look at it at an unbiased lens and how they've evolved as a nation. And then you go to Cuba for 10 days in the spring. And then senior year is called the magnum opus, and you can do projects from people who have developed podcasts that they've streamed online. You can get it anywhere, or you maybe start a blog and a website. One girl did that on the feminism movement, or you can teach a class to younger kids about something you're really passionate about. So it's a 4-year curriculum, very holistic, and definitely each year you find yourself a little deeper.
So have you given any thought to what you might do for your magnum opus next year?
So I'm not sure yet. I think I'm going to look at how companies recruit from the university because we have so many students from all over the U.S. that we're really becoming a national brand other than just like Regions Bank, which is headquartered in Birmingham recruiting. Now we have Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley recruiting from our school and how that shift has gone along, so more of like an in-depth research, but I'm not sure how that will lay out yet.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What other opportunities do you feel like the program has opened up to you throughout the years that you've been involved with it?
Yeah, so I think one thing about fellows is you're constantly meeting new people who have this interesting or a diverse thought process than you. So I lived in New York this past summer, and you have, when you're working in New York, you tend to stay with only the types of people you work with. So I was working at 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. with only finance people. And that was great, but they tend to get boring after a while because you're just like, talking about finance all the time. And then on the weekends, I would hang out with my friends who were fellows, and one would be like working with a movie producer, and the other would be, serving at Columbia University in their health department. And you just had these like interesting notions surrounding you of things that I would never even think about on a daily basis. So I think that other opportunities, you're automatically connected with a really strong network of professors on campus. Part of our curriculum, you have to go to 2, we call them dinner discussions a semester. And these are just dinners, but they're hosted in professors' homes. And so 2 days ago, I went to one on meditation. I don't know anything about meditation, but the professor was really interesting. He's an English professor on campus, and he just kind of introduced the basics of why he decided to do meditation and how he might think it would help our lives. Another dinner discussion I went to a couple of weeks ago was from a world-renowned chemist who I think is on track to win a Nobel Prize, and I would have never met him because he only teaches PhD students. And you would think his dinner would be all on chemistry, but really he likes to collect art on the side, so he just toured us around his home telling us about all his different art pieces from around the world. So you have these dinners that are really unique, and you get to kind of know the insides of a professor that you would never be introduced with.
It's really cool. Yeah, really neat. So looking back on your time in the program, you're finishing up, what are some of the most valuable experiences or relationships that you've made over the years?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the community you build throughout fellows. My cohort, I like to consider a family. I don't like everyone in my cohort. I don't agree with everyone, but we have this innate level of respect that if someone calls me and says, I need your help getting into this organization, or like, can you drive me home tonight? Like, I'm always going to do that because they are my family. They've been there since day one in college, and you really have that support system. I also think, we have a good social aspect. So these are the people that you always have your college career with. Freshman year, we hosted a Christmas party in the same classroom we had class in, and we had this white elephant where someone brought like a live goldfish and like traded that around our cohort, which was very bizarre, but it's a fun memory that you'll always have in college. So I think just that community of like very like-minded students, not like-minded in the fact that we're all studying the same thing, but like-minded in the fact that you all want to impact your community, you're all like smart, but at the end of the day, you just want to have a great time and like enjoy what college is meant to be there for.
Sydney, it sounds like you are so happy with the choice that you made to go to Alabama and do the Alabama Fellows experience. And I know you've got a brother at Princeton, and so it's kind of a fun offset, I'm sure, for your family discussions.
Yes, so I definitely think, he's had a great experience at Princeton. He's an athlete there, and my parents always say if he wasn't at Princeton for athletics, like, he would be at Alabama, because Alabama as a whole, whether you're in fellows or you're just in the honors college, like, it provides experiences and opportunities that are so unique, and you will get placed at the best law schools, the best med schools. Like, you have opportunities unlike any other there.
And isn't it great to be able to get home to Knoxville from time to time?
Last weekend for the UT Alabama game, we drove up and we had 22 Alabama kids staying at my house in Knoxville. So huge group. My parents loved it, and it was a very fun game. So yeah, it's always nice to come home to Knoxville.
That's wonderful. Well, we sure appreciate your time with us
Yeah,
today. Any final words you'd like to say to our students?
I think like if you ever have any questions about Alabama as a whole, feel free to reach out to me. We always want more Knoxville kids coming down, so please, if you need anything, you always have someone here.
Thank you.
Thanks.